Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another podcast. We are talking today about living in another country as an expat. Living in another country, what we like so far, what we don't like so far. And my guest is also an expat living in Brazil. It's Leon. You guys know Leon. And so let's say hello to Leon.
Hey everyone, how's it going? Hope everyone's doing well.
Yep. Happy Monday.
Yep, happy Monday.
Okay.
Miserable Monday? No, but I call it happy Monday.
Yes. No, not
Yeah,
miserable. Not miserable.
yeah. Okay.
Um, so let's see. Now, you and I have both been out of the U.S. for a few years. Me, I am, let's see, almost 3 years. How about for you?
Yeah, I've been here for 4 years in Brazil. Hmm.
Okay, so one more year. So we're living as expats, and so we're going to talk about the things that we like so far, the things that we don't like. Of course, there's good and bad. But let's talk about both. And you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I'll start. The two things that stands out for me in Brazil are the people and the culture. I mean, I just love how the people are very friendly. I'm in the northeast part of Brazil because Brazil's a big country. I'm not in the south. South is different. I hear from a lot of Brazilians. People say that the people in the south are more reserved, not as open, and more kind of cold, I guess you can say, like, people in Europe in some ways not as friendly, but the people in the Northeast are very friendly, warm, hospitality, kind of, touchy feeling, hey, like a buddy type thing. So yeah, the people that stands out for me in the culture, I just love how the culture is totally different than United States. There are similarities, uh, but yeah, I would say those two things that stands out for me. What about you?
Well, I'm living in Southern Europe and like Italy, Spain. And so, what I like is that the distances are much smaller, so you can experience another culture, another city, another country um, without having to go too far. You can either drive, which, for an American to drive 5 hours a day, it's not that much, right? We do it, don't we? We go to San Francisco in a day, but you can be in a totally different country in 5 hours. Um, or you can take a flight, and these flights within the continent are really cheap. So the possibility of traveling around and experiencing all of Europe is really easy, and I like that. I love to be able to travel easily, and everything's very close.
Nice. Okay. And what about like the people there? I mean, are they pretty open, pretty friendly? Are they more reserved? It's not as quiet, or how's that like?
That's a really loaded question, and the reason is because
Hmm.
I have found that if you in Italy, okay, so in Italy, if you are if you're seen as a tourist, therefore tourist dollars, right?
Hmm.
Therefore, you're boosting their economy. Then they love you, right? Um, but the thing of it is that they're quite insular. So you are always going to be thought of as their word for it is straniero, which means the foreigner. And
Mm.
so I'm not so sure that they love foreigners, but I think that they absolutely love tourists. So but keep in mind that I have kind of in a way stayed in the tourist bubble in that I no, not all the time, but sometimes when I'm in the tourist bubble, I find that things are fine, but I find that when I'm outside of the tourist bubble, living like a local, then yeah, sometimes I just feel like they either don't care about you or they're not crazy about you. Yeah, so I don't it's very different, right? It all has to do with how do they benefit from you, you know?
Mm. Hmm. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's totally different than Brazil. I mean, the Brazilian people are very friendly, very open, very polite. I mean, but that's on a good way. But if you disrespect them, do anything bad, hey, be aware that you're ready for to get in a fight, or they'll fight you to the end. I mean, that's the Spanish or the Portuguese blood, right? So,
Hmm.
but it's totally different. But in terms of overall, they're very friendly, very polite. I mean, yeah, if you go to favela, that's a different whole new thing, right? If you're
Hmm.
in Rio, I mean, in a bad, I mean, yeah, it's like any other country. You get robbed, you get, you know, stolen cars and things like that. Yeah, I mean, that's normal. It's just bad people wherever you go in the world, but I'm talking about the majority. And the majority people are very friendly, easygoing. They like foreigners. They like people from outside. It's like, learning new things, culture, things like that. So, yeah, to my experience, Brazilians is great. I highly recommend people to put on their bucket list to visit Brazil because especially when there's a concert or some musical shows and things like that, because it's one of the most exciting places to really be involved in and to experience. So if you want something in your bucket list, put Brazil there and don't worry about like what you see on, news and things and say Brazil is the most violent place and I don't want to go there or take that risk. But once you go there, or once you come here, it's really not that bad. Most of the violence happens within the within themselves. When I say within themselves, I mean like between like drug dealers or the mafias, what you want to call them, perhaps. Maybe what you would get is just a robbery, take things from you, but they're not gonna like shoot you or be in the crossfire, like for example, Mexico. So it's totally different.
Oh, I see. Okay. So would you say that the danger or the threat level is similar to the US? It's just about you just need to know where to go. Is it like that?
I don't think so, to be honest with you. I think the threat in US is much higher in that way.
Ah, okay.
Because, for example, in Detroit, New York, Chicago, LA, if you go to a favela or if you go to a poverty or the projects, right? And
Hmm.
you're an outsider, I mean, you can literally get killed and shot for no reason, like a
Hmm.
sport kind of thing. It's, of course you'll get robbed and things like that.
Hmm.
But in Brazil, if you go to favela, I don't think you'll get killed. You probably get robbed. You probably, do things to you, but I don't think you're going to get killed. Now, if you're a
Okay.
woman, that's a different story, but I still don't think you're going to get raped, like in the US kind of thing. So different ways. I mean, yeah, the percentage of people getting killed in Brazil, being in the top most dangerous countries in the world or cities, is Brazil. That's because, like I said, there's like rivalry gangs or between the mafias and things like that. But if you get in the crossfire, that's pretty rare. Mostly it's they're within themselves, so that's why the percentage is high because they're killing each other in the mafia, in the gangster, in the gang, territories and things like that. So that's what I believe. I don't know if I'm 100% sure, but yeah, but people get robbed. People, you be on a cell phone, maybe let's say Salvador, right? So you're in Salvador, you can't use cell phones on the street while walking because if you do, you're gonna get robbed. They're gonna take your cell phone. Now, if you don't want to take your cell phone or give it to them, and they're trying to take it, then yeah, you probably get shot. Maybe you get killed because you're resisting. But if you just give them your cell phone, everything is cool. In the U.S., I know people that, even though they take your cell phone, they'll still shoot you or something. So it really depends. Yeah.
So, wow, you can't walk around with a cell phone. But if
No,
you're in
you
a car,
cannot.
you're okay. If you're in a car.
Well, it depends. I heard like in Rio, if you're driving a nice car, uh, people can carjack you, take your car. I don't know if they'll find your car in one piece, but there's carjacking in Rio. I don't know about other cities, but I heard about Rio.
Mhm.
Um, but again, if you're in Salvador, if you're driving, yeah, you could probably get carjacked if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. It's no different than any other countries, I think. Yeah.
Mhm.
Bigger cities have more violence. I think one of the big most, people think that Rio is the most violent city in Brazil or even São Paulo because of the population wise, but actually, I think Salvador is one of the a violent place, and there's also another city or two or three cities that's even more violent. And the reason that is because the population is lower, but the crime is higher. Again, the reason is because drug dealers, they kill themselves. So there's more death toll in that particular city, even though they have less population because the percentage is higher. So yeah.
Hmm. So what else do you like as an expat about, living abroad? Are there any other positives?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. Like I said, the people, just because of what I described to you about all this violence that happens, and Brazil is really an awesome country. I mean, everything to me. Of course, there's like the violence and the corruption, especially, I don't want to get into it. The government corruption. It's like every other, even our United States is corrupt. So, but take those two outside. I think Brazil would probably be one of the best top five, if not top three, biggest country that would, really succeed if they did it the right way. People would want to live here because of the people, the culture, a lot of things. Wherever you go, the food is great. I don't have the varieties as I have in Los Angeles because I'm in a smaller town or smaller city. I'm not living in those, bigger city per se where there's more varieties, international, especially Americans. Here, I don't have that kind of luxury, but the Brazilian food is really good, especially churrasco, right? The barbecue, one of the best. To
Mm-hmm.
me, it's the best barbecue in the world, hands down. I don't care what anybody says. I know United States, we have great barbecue. You go to Texas, you go to the South, great barbecue, but Brazilian, hands down. I haven't been to Argentina or Uruguay, which I also heard that are the best over Brazil. But with my experience, I would say Brazil. Besides those three, food, people, culture. I mean, the fashion is also great. People are great. You got good-looking people. Both men and women. Uh, you can have the great hot weather. You go to the northeast where I'm at, or even the north. There's hot, warm beaches like Miami, and you can go south and you can go get more of the colder weather. Like San Francisco per se, that kind of thing, or not really like snow like Utah or like Colorado, but it does get cold there. Yeah, so you get both ways. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you, what about you and your experience in Italy? I mean, how is it like? How's the violence like? How's you know, the things, the positive, the negative things about what you like as an expat there in Italy of your experience?
Well, I'll tell you what I don't like. One of the things I don't like is the inability to do things 24 hours a day. You know how, like in the US, many things are open 24 hours, like supermarkets. If you're in a big city, you'll have no trouble finding a good supermarket that's open 24 hours. So there's that. So I miss that, because in Southern Europe, in Spain and Italy, a lot of your supermarkets, depending on where you are, but some of them they'll all close on Sunday. I've been in even like mid-sized cities where all the supermarkets are closed on Sunday, which is so maddening. Or maybe sometimes they'll close in the middle of the day in the smaller towns. That drives me crazy as well. So you can't go to the pharmacy or the bank, the supermarket or whatever in the middle of the day. So that's what I don't like, that the operating hours are discontinuous like that. They break it up, and they're not reliable either. I mean, you'll use Google Maps, and Google Maps say these are the hours, and then you go there, they're not open. And that is so typical. That is so typical that regardless, I mean, you can say, oh, Google Maps is wrong or whatever, but if you even look at their own sign, it'll say a certain number of hours and they won't be open just because maybe they didn't feel like it or something. So there's that unpredictability. And so I really don't like that. Business hours are not always predictable, and I don't like that certain businesses are closed Sundays. I mean, you know how in the US we do things 7 days a week practically, right? Businesses are open.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, those that you just described, we don't have that too here in my city or in Brazil. The roads too. I mean, it's not as the nice roads we have in the US, right? You get a lot of
Yeah.
potholes and uneven roads, and And flooding, when it rains, it floods. Yeah, I mean, there's flooding, a little bit of flooding in the U.S., in LA, but there's more in my city, and I think other cities too, because of their system. Um, Also, like electricity, you get like blackouts here and there. You don't get too much of that in the US. And also like running water. Sometimes there's no running water in particular time because I don't know, there's a problem or something, or there's construction or whatever happens. In the US, that rarely happens. And if it does, they get it fixed real quick. Here in my city, it takes hours or a couple hours or even more. So these are the things I kind of don't like about that, about the Brazil. Sometimes Wi-Fi, when it rains really heavily, you may lose the Wi-Fi, electricity, that kind of thing. Here's kind of a thing that I wanted to share about how the people are. I'm going to compare United States Americans and how Brazilians are in United States. I'd hate to say it, but we tend to judge people based on their appearance of what they look on the outside. Before they get to know you in the inside. But once you get to know an American, they're great friends. I mean, it's awesome, awesome. Okay. But in the beginning stage, they just tend to stereotype, like, your physicality, your appearance, before they want to even get to know you or even get to know the personality of you. That's the American way. The Brazilian way is the total opposite. They don't look at you based on your appearance. They look at you from the inside before they even look at you in the outside. Because you can be rotten and terrible in the inside and good looking in the outside. They don't want anything to do with that. So for them, they look at you as in your personality and you in the inside than your your looks or your appearance or from the outside. That's my observation as an American living in Brazil, comparing the two. Now, I don't know if how is that like for you in Italy or your experience in Spain? I mean, what's your take on that?
You know what? I have no idea what people people are thinking, to be honest. I don't
Mm,
know. Yeah, I don't know. But I will tell you something about if we're talking about judging people by their appearances. I will tell you that in Europe, and I've heard other like YouTubers talk about this too, expats. People stare. People stare, and they how like in America you're not supposed to stare at people. It's rude, right?
yeah,
So
right.
apparently here, I guess it's okay. People just stare, and they don't even try to hide it. And I think it
Wow.
yes, yes. I'm not. I don't mind people staring at me. I'm okay with it. But I
Mhm,
think that for some people it could be very intimidating to be stared at. Um, I think that it's not in their culture to avert your gaze. But I think it's weird. I would not do that. Of course, we're all curious and we all want to, look at certain people for whatever reason, good or bad. But at least with Americans, we kind of try to hide it so that
mhm.
you don't get caught staring at somebody because it's rude. But no, not here, not here. They will just literally stare at you like a TV screen, you know?
Wow. Oh
Yeah,
my gosh.
yeah.
Yeah, that's not gonna fly here in Brazil. You do that, you're gonna get a fight. I mean, that's a
Oh,
total
interesting.
opposite culture. Yeah, you're
Hmm.
staring at somebody. It's like you're waiting to be getting a fight. Like for example,
Oh,
I'll
it's
use this an
aggressive.
example. Yeah, I'll use this an example. Like how we Americans, there's a lot of Americans that will stare at beautiful women.
Yes.
If you have a wife or if you have a girlfriend who's beautiful, I'm just gonna say like a 10, and there's going to be guys that's going to look and stare, and even Americans will even try to talk to you or even talk to your girlfriend or wife, make a small talk, things like that, maybe to try and get to know, or maybe things that get a phone number. They don't know if it's your wife or not until they see the ring. But these are a lot of Americans, through my experience, that they'll try to talk to you or to your friend or girlfriend or wife, that's like say a 10, just try to get a number, maybe to go out, who knows, right? That's
Hmm.
not going to fly in Brazil. You do that, you're going to get you know a fight. You try to talk to a girl without even talking to the guy, without any particular reason, yeah, you're gonna get in a fight. If you're staring at their wife or girlfriend, you're gonna get in a fight or something. So staring is not really common here in Brazil to do that. to them is considered disrespectful and rude. And that's the
Mm,
beauty that I love about Brazil. It's about respect.
hmm.
And I'll be honest with you, I mean, we're Americans. We don't get that much respect in the US, right? We don't treat it as our priority or in the top thing as far as respect. In Brazil, that's like it's like Japan. Japan of the Latin America is Brazil. They really value the respect. And that's one of the things I love about Brazil. Yeah.
Mm,
I don't know
okay.
how that is. I don't know how that is with your experience in Italy and Spain.
No, I didn't. I've never noticed that, but the only thing I have noticed is that whole the staring thing, which seems to be pretty normal for people here.
Mm. Mhm. Yeah, we tend to stare in the US, but like you said, we tend to not really show it
Hmm.
kind of a glance kind of way. But again, if what I just talked about, if it's like a 10, a beautiful woman, or even a handsome guy, just flip the thing, you're gonna get stares and maybe even flirtatious looks and things. So yeah.
Hmm. Now, what about speaking English? So now I've noticed that, like for example, in Spain, s- English seems to be very contentious in that you have Spanish, which is a very powerful language and spoken by so many people. I feel like the people here in Spain, they have no interest nor desire to speak English. They don't care that it's a world language because a lot of people speak our language. That's all we need to know. I get that attitude.
Mm,
And to the point where, like in other countries where they don't speak English, they want to be helpful. They will go ahead and, pull out the Google Translate or whatever. In Spain, they will literally, as I already said, no habla español, they will literally keep speaking Spanish to you. And I'm like, are you psychotic? I just said I don't understand. Why would you keep saying the same thing over and over? I'd rather you
right.
say nothing than say the same thing over and over, as if I'll somehow learn Spanish in 30 seconds. And meanwhile, they will not pull out Google Translate. It's like very, very difficult. Like, asking them to speak English is like, I don't know. I think you can get them to go to the dentist and get a filling without anesthesia easier. Um, but anyway, like
Right.
for example, I last year I went to a car dealer I was shopping for a car, and this was in Madrid, right in the center of Madrid. It was a BMW dealer. I mean, it's a
Wow.
premium brand in a world city, a capital city no less, in the European
Wow.
Union, and
Hmm.
I could not find anybody to speak English. Now, ultimately, we used Google Translate, but it was just shocking to me that you're in a big city, you're in a global international premium brand, you work there and you don't speak English. So
Hmm.
I found that off-putting. I'm sorry, that's just off-putting. This is not me being an arrogant American saying, oh, you should speak English because I'm American. This is, you should speak English because it's a world language, and the fact that you don't says more about you than it says about my insistence on you speaking English. Now, what is your opinion about this?
Yeah, my opinion about this is, but before I do that, why don't we go ahead on the reset, do a reset
Yes.
about, yeah.
Yeah, so guys, thank you for listening. We're talking about expat life. Both Leon, my guest, and I are expats living in another country. We're both Americans, and we've been out of the country for a few years now, living abroad. And that's what you're listening to. We're talking about the things we like and the things we don't like. If you like this video, and I hope you do, please click the thumbs up. Give it a thumbs up. It'll really help this video. And also make sure you hit that subscribe button, everybody. Subscribe to our channel and make sure you also click the bell. Make sure you click the bell, guys. It's very important. And then select all. By doing that, YouTube will show you future videos we upload. If you don't click the bell and select all, YouTube will not show you future videos, even if you're a subscriber. I don't know why YouTube is like that. But anyway, subscribe, click the bell, select all, and then you're set. Okay, so let's continue. Tell me
Okay.
about your opinion about this whole refusal to speak English.
Now, with that, based on my opinion, I can understand. I have kind of a mixed opinion on that. Okay.
Mm,
Number one is that I can agree with you. If you're working like an international, like retail store, Like you get a lot of tourists in Madrid. Let's say Madrid is a touristy spot, right?
Hmm.
Barcelona too.
Yeah.
And you have a lot of retail stores. You want to speak English because you're going to get a lot of international people, and English is an international language.
Yeah.
Then yes, I do require a person to understand English because you're going to get a lot of foreigners from all over part of the world, right?
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
for me, that's a requirement. I think before they even hire, even though you're in your own country, your own mother tongue, if you're working in that kind of environment, you need to speak English. That's just my personal opinion. Now, if
Yeah.
you have, say, BMW, like an automotive dealer or a repair shop and things like that, I don't think so, because you're not going to get any international foreigners there. So, and if even though they are in Madrid, I don't think they need to speak English because they're dealing with their own people.
Hmm.
So they don't really need to speak English. Yeah, I mean, it tells a lot about you. I mean, it's good for you to learn because part of education, it depends on what your priorities and what your needs are. So if
Hmm.
they feel like I don't need to speak English because I work in automotive industry, I have no goal, I have no dream to travel abroad outside of Spain. I'm just going to stay in Spain, then you don't need English if that's
Hmm.
what you feel. You don't feel like you need to watch any movies, English, language, or listen to English music. You're just gonna listen to Spanish all your life. Then no, you don't need the English language. But if you're gonna work for a BMW corporate office and you know BMW is a German company, then you better learn English because it's an international. You're not just gonna be dealing with German people, but you're gonna be dealing with people from all over the world. So if you're going to be working at a corporate office, then yes, English is a requirement. I don't think if you don't speak English in an international company, they have no business hiring you, in my opinion, because it's an international company. Regardless, even though it's your own country, like you're in Spain, you have to learn to speak the English language because it is an international company. Now, if you're going to work for a Spaniard company, then you don't need to speak English because you're just dealing with Spanish people. Now, if that Spanish company is dealing with international, then yeah, it's a requirement, hands down. That's my opinion. That's why I said it's kind of a mix. Yeah.
What's really interesting is contrasting that with the U.S. and the experience of car buying, for example, in the U.S. If I went into a car dealer in the U.S. speaking Spanish, even if the salespeople did not speak Spanish, they would scramble, they would hustle, they would find some salesperson that spoke
Yeah.
Spanish to help me. But this is not the case in Spain. They don't care, which is also very strange because it also says something else, which is that where's the hunger? Where's the
Mhm,
hunger? Aren't you,
mhm.
don't you want to make money? Don't you want to make a sale? And I noticed that in the US, salespeople are hungry. They want to hustle, they want to sell, they want to make money, they want to get their sales numbers up. Whereas here, they don't care. They're just like, I don't speak, I can't speak English, and so forget it. I don't need to make the sale. Whereas in the U.S., no, 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 no. Just because they don't speak your language, they'll find somebody to speak that your language so that they can split the commission. They're not going to lose any opportunity to make money. And so there's that hunger, which again, I guess it goes back to not only does the person not know English, but it goes back to maybe that there's no hunger, there's no drive, there's no ambition. Yeah, I could take the sale, or I don't need to. That there's that kind of attitude, and that I find it troubling, and that's what am. I probably will honestly never get used to that. Being American, I will never get used to that sort of lack of hunger and lack of ambition.
Yeah, precisely, 100%. I think you nailed it. I mean, it's the same in also in Brazil. But in Brazil, they'll pull out a phone and try to do the Google Translate. But they don't have that same hunger, that same intensity as in the US. In the US, it's about making money. It's about what I can do and gain that customer satisfaction. That's another thing that we have. I mean, they want to make money. They want to make business. In Brazil, it seems like if you don't can't cater to their end or their price or whatever, find something else.
Hmm.
I just work here. I get my salary, maybe I get my commission to them, I don't make my commission, it's no big deal. That's what it seems like for me. In the
Hmm.
US, no, if I'm going to make commission, if I'm going to lose a little bit of my commission, I'm still going to make that sale because I'm still going to make money. This is the mentality of us Americans.
Yeah.
If I'm going to lose $100, but I'm still going to get my 200, if I'm going to, so be it. I lose $100, but I'm still going to make 200. This is the mindset of us Americans. Yeah.
Yes. When I was living in the US, I often heard people say, "Oh gosh, why are Americans so lazy?" And at that time, of course, I bought into that. Like, yeah, some Americans really are very lazy. But you have no, I mean, I have seen laziness here like you can't believe. Like for example, I'm trying to rent an apartment, not like a short-term rental, but just a regular apartment, like sign a lease. And they send me emails like, "Oh, we're having an open house, whatever, these new construction buildings, whatever." And I always write back, and either I write in English or I will also supplement it with a Google translated version in Spanish. So I give them both, right? But I let them know that I don't know Spanish. However, for your convenience, I've translated this message into Spanish. So what always happens is the communication stops after they realize that I don't speak Spanish. Now, this is just atrocious because they're so lazy that they can't even be bothered to use Google Translate to create an email
Oh
in
my
either
gosh.
English. Yes, yes. And
Hmm.
the and they're always into like, "Oh, if you're interested in the apartment, just come see it, come see it, come see it." And I'm like, I'm hundreds or maybe a few thousand, 1,000 or 2,000 miles away. Can you provide a video, like a virtual walkthrough or whatever?
Hmm.
Apparently, that's just too much for them. That is like, what are you asking for? Like they've never heard of it. They're really obsessed with you coming in. And this is like that in Italy as well. They're just really obsessed with people going into the office, going in. I'm like, who has time to go in? This is 2024. Why aren't we
Yeah.
exploiting technology to save time? So I miss that about the US where people are again, Americans, I didn't realize this, but we are so much more agile. We are so much more clever, and we have hunger and ambition. Because in the U.S., you send an email like that, bam, that salesperson, that real estate agent, you are going to get that video from them in 2 days because they want to make the sale. Here, people are just like they can't even be bothered to write back and to send an email back. And so this really bothers me because then you have people complaining about, "Oh, we don't get paid very much." And I'm thinking, I think you're actually being overpaid. And I can't wait for AI to take over your position because that's exactly the kind of nonsense employees we don't need, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I agree precisely. I mean, I just can't believe it. I mean, you're 1,000 miles and they want you to go there. I mean, no, that's not gonna fly. I'm not gonna waste my time to go there and I don't even
Yeah.
like the place. Show me the video, show me more pictures. I want to do my due diligence. I want to make
Yes.
sure that's the right place for me. I'm not gonna waste my time going all the way there and I'm not gonna enjoy or like the place. No, that's not gonna fly. If that's how they do it, I mean, that's crazy. Yeah.
It's crazy. And same thing in Italy when I was shopping for a house a couple years ago. It's like I asked for a video and they're like, "Well, I don't have one, and I guess I can get it for you, but it'll be a couple weeks before I go to the property again." And I'm like, I'm literally shocked because in America, when you list a property, of course you would have already done the video. You should already have it in your
Yeah.
possession to send. But then you're asking them to do it, and it's almost like you're asking them to do something they've never heard of, and now they have to make an exception in their life. It's going to be completely disruptive to their lives to go do this for you. And that just speaks to the incompetence and how people
Hmm.
just, it's like, what is going on? Is there something in the water here? Like, what is going on? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think we're just like a few steps ahead. I mean,
Oh,
the way we think,
20 years and a few
the way
steps.
we operate. I mean, this is we're always thinking one step ahead. I mean, yeah, I've experienced lazy Americans, but it's not a lot of lazy Americans there. I mean, depends on the profession too. So we get things going. I mean, yeah, the way I say laziness is like instead of doing the work, they're there in their cubicles talking to people. Hey, Jack, what's going on?
Oh,
How's
right.
your weekend?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of like my laziness, the way I see it. They're taking time, doing the
Sure.
work, but to me, that's laziness. But to other people, the reason that they say laziness is because what do you mean laziness? Or Is it because they don't work? Is it because foreigners or immigrants are taking their job? Well, what do you mean by laziness when other people say that? I mean, to me, I hear this many times from a lot of immigrants, a lot of foreigners, that Americans are lazy and that they're uneducated and are dumber or stupid because they can't do the job. They go there, they take the jobs. I mean, that's a whole new segment. I mean, if you want me to
Hmm.
get into that, I'll dive into that. And some of you all may not like my answer, but that's a whole new topic. Yeah.
No, compared to what I've experienced, Americans are not lazy. Compared to what
Yeah,
I've experienced here,
I
no.
agree too. I
when I
agree.
w-
Yeah.
when I was in the U.S., I did think that Americans were lazy, but since I've left the U.S. and I'm in Southern Europe, I'm like, my God, Americans are like super industrious compared to the people I've encountered here. So yeah, it totally changed my perspective on what exactly is lazy and what is the meaning of lazy and lack of
Hmm.
ambition. New definition here now.
Hmm.
New.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to compare like a lot of, say, I'm just going to use the experience, like engineers here in Brazil, say an automotive engineer, they put in a lot of hours after office hours. Compare that to an American, probably not going to be the same, but they work just as a lot. Uh, So you consider that lazy just because they're not working as many hours as a Brazilian. Here's another mindset that we Americans are. If you're given a deadline, here's the deadline. You need to complete it. If you complete it 2 days earlier, hey, that 2 days, I'm just gonna like do whatever I want to do, like maybe chat, kill time, or do things, or maybe even do errands if it's remote. I finished my assignment. I finished my project 2 days ahead. In other countries, that doesn't fly. Okay, you finished 2 days, here's more work. That's the difference, and maybe that's the what you call laziness. But to me, that's not laziness. If you finish in 2 days, the boss is just going to say, "Okay, you finish your work." If he wants to ask, it's up to his option. If he wants to ask for more work and hey, what can I do to help other people? That's up to the person. To him, if he wants to advance, get promoted, he can do it. But if he doesn't, then he just wants to stay and he's stagnant and he enjoys where he is, he's content, then he's not going to ask. I'm just going to do my work. I don't get paid to do more. Here's my job. I finished my deadline 2 days ahead. I'm going to kill my time and do other things. Is that laziness? I don't think so. He finished his job. That's an
Hmm.
American way. Yeah.
The other thing that I do like, well, let's talk about something I do like here, and that is that your dining out costs will most undoubtedly be cheaper just because you don't have to pay a 20% tip. And plus, you don't have to pay tax on top of the stated price. So it is noticeably less to dine out here than it is in LA in the US.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a
Mm-hmm.
plus. I no tip,
Mm-hmm.
no tax.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that I
Now
like.
you were saying about Spain. To me, when you're saying about they still speak to you in Spanish, and sounds like it's like a bit about the French, right? Because you know how
Oh
we
yeah, yeah.
Americans about the France, so sounds
Yes,
like kind of
yes.
a French thing. So yeah, that just kind of remember that. But in Spain, I mean, I didn't know that that's how it works in Spain. Like they'll still talk to you, and to them, it's like, it's not as important to learn the language or even take the initiative to pull a Google Translator or something like that. So, wow, I'm surprised by that.
Okay, so the French refusing to speak English, though, no, I think that they're motivated by something different than the Spaniards. Okay, so I think the Spanish people don't want to speak Okay, if you speak English, there's several things happening, right? But okay, what I've noticed is if I ask for a salesperson or somebody who speaks English, it's almost like I just said, I have a gun and give me all your money. You will see people running away like you've never seen them. It's like turning on the lights in the middle of the night in a slummy apartment and seeing the cockroaches scatter. You will see people scatter like that. They're so afraid
Mm,
when you say you speak English. That's one thing that's happening is the fear. The second thing that's happening is they don't know English. They don't, therefore they can't produce the language. The third thing is that I think it's also that Spanish is so widely spoken all over the world, they don't see the need to speak English. Contrast that with the French, where
Hmm.
not a lot of people speak French anyway outside the US, excuse me, outside of France compared to Spanish. But yet, I think it's more of just hard-headed insistence on, not wanting to speak English. For what reason, I have no idea. But it's a different motivation. And so, you know what? Listen, if you don't want, if I were a tourist in Paris and they refused to speak English with me, I would just keep speaking English because, I mean, I'm sorry, but between English and French, I think that nobody would deny that English is more powerful.
Hmm. I think that really depends on the manager and the hiring manager, and also the owner of that store or that shop or whatever the company is.
Right.
Because if you're the owner, your first thing you're going to educate your managers or the people up there. Say, make sure you people speak English because I want that business. I want that money. It's
Yeah,
all about profit,
exactly.
right? So
Yes.
that's what you educate them. And then the manager, they want to do the job. They want to make the sales. So I'm going to make sure that the people I'm hiring needs to understand or speak English. And if they don't, you're not being hired. Simple as that. Because the bottom line is about the money. Now, if they don't
Yes.
care about the
Yeah.
money and they really don't care and just give me my salary, then, hire whoever you want to hire. I mean, that's a different type of mindset, different type of mentality. Yeah.
That's the thing about in America is like no matter what language you speak, no matter how obscure your language is, you're really not going to encounter people being like, you know, upset with you for not speaking English because again, it's business, right?
Hmm.
They want the business, so they're going to try their best to communicate with you. There's not going to be this insistence and foot stomping and nonsense about, well, we're in this country and you have to speak this language and only this language. It's like, yeah, whatever. Do you speak money? You know what I mean? Uh,
Exactly.
and that's how
Yeah.
we are as Americans. We don't care that you don't speak English. We just want to do the deal. We want the business, so we'll do what we can to make it happen. Whereas you have other people in other countries who are just so hard-headed, and they're focused on the wrong thing, which is they're not thinking about the business. They're just thinking, you're in this country, you speak my language. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you go to a store and all that. If you can't speak English, they'll get somebody. They're like
Yes,
Spanish. There's
exactly.
somebody there in LA that speaks Spanish, so they'll get that. If you're Russian and you don't speak Russian, that's a little bit harder to get. So what they'll do is they'll pull out their phone or they'll say, "Hey, come here, follow me," and go to the computer and open up a Google Translate or
Yeah,
something, and they'll
exactly.
find a way to some communicate because they want to sell. But that's on the selling standpoint. But
Hmm.
if we are in a different aspect, like I had one student told me that her brother went to Vegas and he doesn't speak any English. So he went to Vegas and he rented a car and he was driving back to LA because I believe I don't know if it's LA or San Diego, I don't remember, but to catch his flight. Oh, it was San Diego. And his car broke down in the middle somewhere in the desert.
Hmm.
And so he was there and a police officer came and asked him, "Is everything all right?" And he said, problem, and with the mechanic, he said something like words here and there that he knew in English. And I guess the police officer knew that he couldn't speak English much, and he just left them there.
Really?
He was
Oh.
yeah, he was literally in the desert. The reason is because of how he asked. If he said, "I need
Uh,
help," or "help, my car's stuck," but he said like, there's engine problem or problem, so he thought maybe he's trying to fix it, so the police officer left. But if he said
okay.
help, it's a
Yes.
different thing. So he ended up
Okay.
calling he walked I don't know how many miles to try and get a signal. Once he
Mhm.
got a signal, he called his friend in Vegas. The guy went from Vegas and picked him up and got the car fixed and drove him to San Diego to the airport. I mean, it was a complete mess. And
Mm.
this is your education, for you non-English speaking tourists out there, things that you think that it's safe to tour on your own to United States, be careful. I was telling my student that your brother needs to be careful because if somebody there found out that this person didn't speak English, he could have been robbed, he could have been human trafficking because, she said that they're both good looking. Her brother's, like really good looking, and the wife is super gorgeous. And if somebody went there and helped them and found out that these people didn't speak English, hey, you could be caught in a human trafficking. Kidnap you, nobody's gonna know you can't speak English. That's enter at your own risk. Be careful out there. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, so that's the whole English thing that I miss.
Yeah.
What else? What else?
Yeah.
What do you miss, or what do you like, don't like about
I mean, I miss the food because I'm a foodie. I love the food. I
Yeah.
love like having the varieties of food. It's not
Yes.
just the junk food, but also just the American food. We have a lot of varieties of American food. I
Yes.
miss the English language. I have to admit, wherever I go, there's English everywhere in the United States. So I miss that. Wherever, small talk, talk to them in line, talk to people in line, just friendly, smile, small chat type thing, small talk. I miss that. You mentioned in Spain they don't speak a lot of English. What do you know the percentage of how many people in that country speaks English, and also Italy too, with your experience?
No, I don't know the percentage. It's obviously higher in the big cities. Thankfully, I know enough Italian that I can get by in the small towns. But in Italy, it's not as big a problem actually speaking English as it is in Spain, because I've noticed that Italians, they're very willing to help you and communicate with you even if you don't speak Italian. But I've noticed that the Spanish are less willing. They
Mm,
clutch onto that Spanish, whereas the Italians, they will try to speak some English. They might even apologize for their bad English, but the Spanish, they don't care.
mm-hmm,
It's
mm,
you know what I mean?
mm-hmm,
Because Spanish,
mm-hmm,
again, and rightly so, it's a very powerful language, and
mm-hmm,
it's spoken in many many countries. So they just don't care. They don't care that
mm-hmm,
English is a world language. So they're thinking Spanish is also a world language. So
mm-hmm,
it's a bit of a
mm-hmm,
tug of war. Okay, I think that's what it is. And also again, it goes back to the lack of hunger, lack of ambition,
mm-hmm,
laziness.
mm-hmm,
Because I think in a business setting, once again, like I'm talking about in a business setting, and if I'm a customer, I'm a paying customer. You need to speak my language. Sorry, but you need to speak my language, because don't you want to make the sale? You know what I mean? So
exactly.
I think
Yeah.
it's just really weird when they don't care like that. And that just goes back to the lack of hunger, lack of ambition. And I was telling the story to my friend, and then he always reduces it to, well, they're socialists. They're a socialist state. They don't care and they're lazy. That's what he always says to me. I'm like, oh, well, there's
Mm-hmm,
got to be more to it than that.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What else do you miss being as an expat?
What else do I miss? You mentioned the food. I miss the diversity of the food. And I'm not just talking about like, oh, there happens to be a this type of restaurant or that type of restaurant. No, because that's garbage here, honestly. But in LA, you will have a variety of different kinds of restaurants, but yet they're good. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh yeah,
Mm-hmm,
so there is a Chinese restaurant, but it's such crap, which is how it usually is in Italy or in Spain or whatever. But in the US, you will have this great diversity of food from all over the world, and they're good. It's not just like there's one and it's better than nothing. No, it's not. It's actually good. So I miss the diversity. Whereas I feel like, for example, if I'm in Italy, I feel like I can go to any restaurant and they've all Xeroxed, they've all photocopied the same menu and distributed it. That's how I feel sometimes. Everything is exactly the same. And so I think that the typical Italian is not an adventurous eater. I think they're fed by tradition more than they are by the food. Sometimes I've had Italian food that just simply is not good, but because they're so tradition bound, as long as it's a tradition and an old recipe, and they love to work the whole like, oh, the recipe from my grandma. It's like, okay, that's nice, but was she a good cook? Maybe she was a crappy cook. Who cares if it's from your grandma? I'm sorry, but you know what I mean? I want something that tastes good. Don't give me just a story, you know?
Mhm.
And so I do sometimes fatigue on eating out in Italy because it's very redundant. It's very redundant. Whereas there's not that redundancy in the American big cities.
Mm. The
Yeah.
living standard, huh? I also miss that too. The
Oh
quality of the
yes.
living standard. Yeah.
Yes. It is so much higher in LA, in American big
Hmm.
cities. The standard of living is just simply higher.
Hmm. Yeah. Much higher. Yeah.
I mean, you talk about like in Brazil, how sometimes you experience random power outages and water outages, and I'm like, oh my God, right? But they're like, it's normal for them, but for me, that is completely unacceptable.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah.
And same thing here, also in well, I can't tell you how much trouble I've had with electricity in Italy, where like you can't be doing maybe your laundry and also your dishes, well, dishwasher and washing machine at the same time. And because they have crappy electrical panels, right? And but it doesn't
Hmm.
have to be. It's just that people are too cheap to have proper electricity. And so they'll just tell you straight to your face with the arrogance that you've never seen before that you can't do both things at once. And they will and I've literally been told it's not like you're in America. And I'm like, what? Can you believe that? They actually have told me that it's not like in America where you can do two things at once. And they think, listen, if that's what you believe, that's if that's how you want to live your life, that's fine. But for you to think that that's okay, wow, that was eye
Hmm.
opening for me. That is
Hmm.
okay. That we're now doing one thing at a time and we're not multitasking, and that's okay. Just like I've experienced the arrogance of I was asking this Airbnb host. I was asking, do you know what's the Wi-Fi speed? And he said he didn't know. I said, can you do a speed test and give me the numbers of the upload and download speed? So he does it. He gives me one number, and I said, or download? He said, I don't know, but you know what? You're not supposed to be working here. It's not an office. And I'm like, what rock have you been living under? Everybody's been working remotely. Everybody's been working from home. And so, but the thing of it is that they will say these things with such arrogance that you can, it just blows your mind. You know, it's just absolutely unbelievable.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, this has happened on more than one occasion, and so that's why
Wow.
so I miss that kind of thing, and
Hmm.
just basic first world internet. Like in the US 10 years ago, we were getting speeds of over 100 download, right? 100 megabits
Hmm.
per second. And it wasn't even fiber, it was just through the cable modem. And before I like right 3 years ago, before I left, I was getting maybe like 2 or 300. But
Hmm.
here it's like fiber and this and that, and it's 200, 300. I'm like, you guys make such a big deal out of fiber, and you're only getting 300. You know what I mean? I'm like,
Right.
good God, that's what I mean. Like, everything is just down a level. I feel like everything is just
Mm.
down a few levels here. That's what it is. It's not
Yeah,
like
for me, it's like slow motion. Everything is
Mhm.
slow motion. That's the way I feel. Yeah. The
Ah,
people too.
okay.
The people, how they move, what you need, they'll
Hmm.
get it to you. Everything is slow motion. Yeah.
Hmm.
And I thought LA was slow compared
Oh,
to places.
me
But
too.
when you go to other countries and foreign countries, I really think that a lot of it is just slow. It's like slow motion. Yeah, I don't know what it is, whether it's the weather, whether I definitely know it's the culture,
Hmm.
but yeah, the drive isn't there. Like you say, the hunger. There's no
Yes.
hunger, whatever, and they're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. And who is it that famously said you cannot teach hunger? You can't teach hunger. Either you have it or you don't, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, well, looks like we are out of time here, but that was a good conversation. I know there's more. I mean, I certainly have
Oh,
more.
plenty.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
do too. Plenty. Yeah.
yeah. There's definitely merits an additional, if not one or two, sequels. But I hope you guys will join us for that. But meanwhile, thank you everybody for listening to the end. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up. I hope you enjoyed the video. Maybe you probably did. That's why you listened to the end. So go ahead, give it a thumbs up. And also please subscribe, everybody. And also after you subscribe, make sure you also click the bell and select all. And that way you'll know when we upload future videos. It's very important to select all. Click the bell, select all, because if you don't, YouTube will not show you future videos we upload, no matter if you're a subscriber or not. Make sure you subscribe, but you have to click the bell and select all. All right, that's it. Leon, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. Thank you for having me. Bye, everyone.
Yeah, everybody. See you guys in the next podcast. It was very enjoyable. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Ciao.